I'm back. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm all festivaled out. It's been a good weekend for me. Been a great weekend. And I've got a silly tan line. See that stupid tan line from where I've been wearing my hat? Idiot. Absolute idiot. So since I was a child, I have been obsessed with ghosts. In fact, many of my formative years were spent chasing them with a shitty JVC camcorder, trying to replicate what I'd seen so many times on Most Haunted. I desperately wanted to believe that there was something more, something beyond death. And more importantly, I just wanted to be reduced to a scared shitting mess by the undead. Eventually though, science got a hold of me, squozed that belief out of me, and showed me an understanding of the world that I could only begin to imagine. Yet my adoration of the paranormal still persists. I am still enamoured by tales of the dead, and the folklore surrounding their ever-present popularity. And seeing as the war on ignorance is all about informing and educating, I thought why not educate myself a little bit more on this paranormal subject, and hopefully inform a few of you guys along the way. After all, these legends of the afterlife continue to grip us to this very day. So, what are ghosts? Where does this belief in an existence after our grisly demise come from? Well, this idea of a life beyond death dates far back into ancient civilization. Many of these ancient civilizations held a staunch belief in the underworld, a place where our inner selves venture to upon our deaths. Ancient Mesopotamian religions called this place Irkala, ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal. Ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal. Fucking names. It was thought by these Mesopotamian religions that burial was not only a sign of respect for the dead, but also provided a doorway into Irkala. The ancient Greeks called this underworld Hades, ruled by a god of the same namesake. To enter Hades, considered to be the final resting place for the soul, the river Styx had to be crossed. This dreadful river could only be crossed by paying the boatman Chiron to transport the dead. This payment would be made by loved ones, who would place a coin in the deceased's mouth in order to ensure their safe journey into Hades. Failure to pay this tariff would result in the deceased's spirit roaming the earth for eternity. More modern Abrahamic religions such as Judaism, Christianity and Islam all lean towards a concept of heaven and hell in the afterlife, where one's actions on earth will determine how their souls spend the rest of eternity. Whilst many Indian religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism believe in reincarnation, where the death of the body only results in the rebirth of the spirit in another physical form. Now all of these ideologies that ponder a post-death world are heavily influenced by two overarching concepts. The first is called animism, a concept that is supposedly pre-paganism, that means it's old as shit, and states that all objects have a spirit or a soul of some kind. This spirit or soul lives beyond the physical realm, and animates all life on Earth. That secondary influential concept is known as ancestor worship, or veneration of the dead. This belief proposes that even in death, the spirit or ghost of a loved one can have an effect on the lives of the living. As such, great respect is shown to the dead through various rituals, decorations, and practices. This is the very reason why ancient Egyptians mummified their dead, and in some respect why today we have funerals to honour those who have passed. So hopefully, as you can probably see by now after that brief history of the afterlife, very brief, mind you, that we humans are fucking obsessed with dying, and have been obsessed with what comes after it for an inordinate amount of time. This obsession has fueled both ancient and contemporary beliefs, and has since inspired the likes of Derek Acora to think it is okay to shout "Mary loves dick" on national television.
Mary loves dick. Mary loves dick.
What it all boils down to though, really, is that this belief in ghosts and in spirits holds some hope for us. Hope that not only our loved ones are still around us in some kind of fashion, but that our own existence will carry on after our meat sacks expire. And layered on top of all of that is the simple fact that we just love a good horror story. I mean, there is simply no tale more enticing nor terrifying than what lies beyond our own death. Film, literature, television and music, all of them are obsessed with our own mortality, exploring it to the nth degree from a variety of angles. And that's because nothing captures the mind more than fear, and there is nothing more fearful than death itself. The problem with all these tales of the dead and our curiosity with things that go bump in the night is that there is not a single shred of empirical evidence to support their existence. There is no evidence of ghosts. There is no evidence of poltergeists. There is no evidence of spirits or demons. In fact, there is no evidence whatsoever of any other paranormal phenomenon. And yet, there are branches of pseudoscience, like parapsychology, that have claimed to have proven the existence of ghosts. There are television shows, like Most Haunted, that have been proven to be fraudulent.
The best bit of that was Mary Loves Dick. Fuck me! I could not stop laughing!
That still pull in a huge audience, and a whole host of psychic mediums whose wielding of the supernatural is nothing more than simple stage magic, that continue to remain popular. So why then does this ostensibly implausible belief in ghosts still persist today? Why, in light of a stark lack of evidence, do people still believe that they have been visited by their dead relatives? Well, here is some science. One explanation can be found in psychological research, whose deep dive into the inner workings of the mind has pulled up some fascinating reasonings behind a human belief in the supernatural. A study coming out of the University of Toulouse in France found that our very thinking processes can have a distinct effect on how we believe in the supernatural. In this study, researchers asked one simple question to sort participants into two different groups: intuitive thinkers and reflective thinkers. In fact, why don't we try that line of questioning right now and see where you guys fall? So the question is simple. These two pens, this red one and this blue one, cost £1.10 in total. The red pen costs £1 more than the blue pen. How much does the blue pen cost? Now I'll repeat that. These two pens, red and blue, cost £1.10. The red pen is £1 more expensive than the blue pen. So how much does the blue pen cost? I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time to mull over that one. No rush. No rush. How much does the blue pen cost? Right, okay, that'll do. If you think that the blue pen costs 10 pence and you automatically double down on that answer, then you are an intuitive thinker. You are also wrong, because 10 pence is the quick and instinctive answer to this trick question. And this is a trick question. It is there to catch you out. The answer of 10 pence just immediately makes more sense. If you paused, however, and suppressed that immediate answer of 10 pence and thought the question through and was suspicious of its intentions, then you, my friend, are a reflective thinker. Because this question isn't about the answer. It's how you chose to answer it. So if you rushed ahead and claimed 10 pence, you are intuitive. If you paused and thought about the answer for a little bit longer, then you are reflective. And in case you were wondering, the blue pen costs 5 pence. And I'll let you work out why on your own. Now, those researchers of that French study then put those grouped participants into an experiment about telepathy. Of course, the researchers rigged this experiment, hiring a fake participant to partake and showcase the ability to read minds to the real participants. The researchers then asked the real participants if what they saw from the fake one was a genuine ability of telepathy or a stroke of statistical luck. And please be aware that the real participants were unaware that this experiment was faked. The study found that intuitive thinkers lean towards a belief in the faked telepathy, whilst reflective thinkers more readily accepted the statistical luck explanation. Essentially, this study is saying that reflective, suspicious, critical thinkers are less likely to believe in the paranormal, whilst the intuitive, more gut-feeling thinking person is more likely to accept the paranormal explanation. Now, if we combine this with the research that shows that the human mind is quick to recognise patterns in an instance when they don't exist, and you have a perfect cocktail for madness and a belief in ghosts. For instance, a study from Italian psychologist Giovanni Caputo found that you can quite easily trick the mind into perceiving something that is definitely not there, and literally force yourself into quite an unnerving paranormal experience. In his study, he asked 50 participants to sit in front of a mirror in a dimly lit, almost dark room and stare into their reflection for at least 10 minutes. And the results were staggering. Quote, at the end of a 10-minute session of mirror gazing, the participant was asked to write what he or she saw in the mirror. The descriptions differed greatly across individuals and included A. Huge deformations of one's own face, reported by 66% of the 50 participants. B. A parent's face with traits changed, 18% of participants. C. An unknown person, 28% of participants. D. An archetypal face, such as that of an old woman, a child, or a portrait of an ancestor, 28% of participants. E. An animal face, such as that of a cat, pig, or lion. 18% of participants. And F, fantastical and monstrous beings, 48% of participants. End quote. Now, these illusions that the participants experienced are the result of a supercharged facial detection system in our brains. A system that actively seeks out faces in the most odd of places. It's the reason why we see Jesus in a piece of burnt toast, and why we can often notice faces or objects in the clouds above us. Caputo concluded that forcing this facial detection system to work overtime in a darkened room, with the lines and curves of the face obscured, our brains end up working much harder to piece together an image that we can recognise. And this illusion is so simple to accomplish that I thought I'd give it a go myself. And as such, I fucking shit myself when I did. All I did was close the blinds in this room. Now, it wasn't pitch black, I could still see where I was going and it was dimly lit. I then sat on the floor with this mirror, and I stared into it for 5 minutes, just looking at my own reflection in the dark. Now, after that very short, very brief 5 minutes of staring into my own ugly face in that mirror, in this darkened room, I saw my face disappear entirely into just a silhouette. And then my fucking eyes popped out of that silhouette right at me. I then saw an older version of myself with wrinkles just around my left eye. Then I saw what looked like my eyes sliding down my face, making my forehead bigger. And then I even saw myself smiling when I definitely was not. I even touched my mouth to make sure I wasn't smiling, but the image in the mirror was me grinning when I wasn't grinning, and that was fucking unnerving. It was without a doubt one of the creepiest and eeriest experiences I've ever had. And it's easy to see how that weird phenomena of the brain, of that strange pattern recognition, could be easily misconstrued as a paranormal sort of experience. It is genuinely strange and ultimately fascinating, and I implore you to go and try it out. Now, if you combine this crazy little ability of our brains to interpret shapes, objects, and things that aren't actually there, with that idea of intuitive and reflective thinking that I mentioned earlier, then it's not too far of a stretch to have some kind of understanding of how we believe in ghosts and the paranormal. Seeing your face melt away in a mirror is horrific and gut-wrenching. It's something out of a horror movie. And transferring that incorrect sensory perception into a darkened corridor in an old house isn't that far-fetched. Obviously, and from my own experience, this very afternoon, I know it's quite easy to trick myself into thinking something is there when it actually isn't. Now, intuitive thinking would see this as unnatural, and not a part of the world that we know and love. Therefore, intuition just jumps to paranormal conclusions. Like when I saw my face going all distorted in the mirror, there was a fear there, because that was me changing. But reflective thinking questions it, challenges it, and searches for answers as to why it's happening in a logical manner. I had to fight down the fears of intuition in order to understand how my face was changing in that mirror. So clearly, it is human nature to search for answers beyond the unknown. We simply cannot accept that this is all the life that there is, and that this feeling of being alive and being cognizant of our own existence must continue on in some way. It just feels far too special to be switched off in an instance. Our brain's hardwiring to instantly recognise patterns and interpret them as something that they are not supports this notion. It gives us what we think is a glimpse into an unknown realm. That experience is then informed by millennia upon millennia of legends and myths pertaining to the afterlife. And as such, the conclusion of ghost or of paranormal activity of some sort is an easy one to fall into. The actual existence of ghosts, though, is easily debunked and easily explained away. The lack of evidence supporting their veracity and the psychological explanations of how the mind can come to perceive ghosts is damning. Unfortunately, though, this evidence is brushed aside, claimed as false by those who believe in or profit from the paranormal, simply because it doesn't fit their worldview. And that way of thinking is dangerous. It propagates a society that does not think critically, a society that doesn't question nor challenge any ideas, and instead accepts them at face value. All because an aging fucking Geordie on the TV told them so. Sure, I understand the comfort of an afterlife. And like I said before, it holds hope. Hope that we will live on in some form. The uncomfortable truth, though, is that right now, there is no evidence to support that it does. And for me, personally, I'd rather take solace in the truth of the matter, rather than burying my head in the sand and hoping that it'll all be fine in the end. Because the most likely outcome is that it won't be. So I hope you liked this episode and it gave you a little bit more of an insight into why people believe in the paranormal. So please give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever. Any engagement is good. Share this video, subscribe to this wonderful little channel that I'm trying to build. And please, if you want to prove me wrong or challenge any of my opinions, do it. Do it in the comments down below or over on Twitter at DarylDoes. I have to stress that I'm not married to any of my ideas in any way whatsoever. So come along, come and see if you can change them. And until next time, my friends, please remember to keep waging the war on ignorance.
Mary loves Dick. Mary loves Dick.